Imagine a quiet suburban street in 1960s Massachusetts, where life seems safe and predictable until it isn't. A devoted wife and mother vanishes, leaving behind a chaotic scene and a question that has lingered for over 6 decades. What really happened to Joan Risch? Welcome to Mysteries and Crime, where chilling puzzles like this keep us captivated. If you're drawn to the unexplained and the haunting echoes of history, you're in the right place. Subscribe, and dive in as we unravel today's mystery together. It was October 24th, 1961, a brisk autumn day in New England. The vibrant foliage painted the landscape in shades of orange, yellow, and red. For Joan Risch, the day began like countless others. She woke early, prepared breakfast for her 2 young children, Lillian and David, and saw her husband, Martin, off to a business trip in New York City. The Risches lived a seemingly idyllic life in a cozy home on Old Bedford Road. Neighbors described them as the perfect family, quiet, friendly, and unassuming. Joan, 31 years old, was the embodiment of 1960s suburban womanhood. She had a charming smile, an air of sophistication, and a passion for literature. Few knew of the tragedies that had shaped her life. Born in Brooklyn, New York, Joan's childhood was marred by a devastating fire that claimed the lives of her parents when she was just 9 years old. Orphaned, she was sent to live with relatives in New Jersey. Despite this harrowing start, Joan excelled academically, earning a degree in English literature and later working in publishing. It was in this phase of her life that she met Martin Risch, an ambitious and kind man who offered her the stability she craved. After their marriage in 1956, Joan dedicated herself to creating a nurturing home for her family. By all accounts, she was a loving mother and a devoted wife. Yet there were hints of restlessness beneath the surface. Joan often visited the local library, immersing herself in crime novels and true crime stories. Some friends noted her fascination with tales of women escaping their lives and starting anew, though they dismissed it as harmless escapism. Joan's literary pursuits often delved deeper than casual curiosity. She was drawn to themes of transformation, reinvention, and the darker corners of human psychology. It was as though the boundaries between her imagination and reality occasionally blurred, a detail that would later intrigue investigators. To her children, Joan was a doting mother who encouraged creativity and exploration. To neighbors, she was polite but somewhat reserved, keeping her innermost thoughts private. Life in Lincoln seemed picture-perfect. The Risch family's modest home was nestled among neatly manicured lawns and shaded by towering maple trees. Neighbors frequently exchanged pleasantries, but the suburban ethos often masked the private struggles families faced. For Joan, who had experienced profound loss at a young age, her suburban routine might have offered both comfort and constraint. The societal expectations of the 1960s dictated that women prioritize their roles as wives and mothers above personal ambition, a dynamic that could breed both fulfillment and discontent. On the morning of her disappearance, Joan followed her usual routine. She took David, her 2-year-old son, to a neighbor's house, while her 4-year-old daughter Lillian stayed home. Joan then ran errands, stopping at a local grocery store before returning home around 11:15 a.m. By all accounts, everything seemed normal. As the day progressed, Joan performed household chores, hanging laundry in the backyard and tidying the house. Around 2 p.m., she spoke briefly with a neighbor, Barbara Barker, who saw her in the driveway. There was nothing unusual in Joan's demeanor, no signs of distress or anxiety. But what unfolded next turned a typical suburban afternoon into one of the most baffling mysteries in American history. At some point, between 2:15 and 3:30 p.m., Joan Risch vanished without a trace. The first alarm was raised by Barbara Barker. Around 3:30 p.m., she noticed Lillian standing in the driveway, visibly upset. When Barbara approached, Lillian said, "Mommy is gone, and the kitchen is a mess." Alarmed, Barbara entered the Risch home to investigate. The scene that greeted her was straight out of a crime novel. The kitchen was in chaos. A table had been overturned, and a telephone handset lay on the floor, smeared with what appeared to be blood. The refrigerator door was ajar, and a roll of paper towels had been unspooled, with several sheets stained red. Drops of blood led from the kitchen to the driveway, where they abruptly ended. Barbara immediately contacted the police, and officers arrived within minutes. The investigation began with a meticulous examination of the house. There were no signs of forced entry, no evidence of a struggle beyond the disarray in the kitchen. Blood samples were collected and later determined to match Joan's blood type. However, only a pint of blood appeared to be present, enough to suggest an injury, but not necessarily life-threatening. Witnesses soon came forward with puzzling accounts. Several neighbors reported seeing a woman resembling Joan walking along Old Bedford Road around 3:15 p.m. She appeared disoriented, clutching her stomach, and was dressed in a trench coat. One witness claimed she looked as though she were in a trance, but none could confirm it was Joan. The police were stumped. Joan's car remained in the driveway, and there were no signs that she had packed any belongings. If she had left voluntarily, she had done so with nothing but the clothes on her back. Further investigation uncovered a series of intriguing clues. Joan had checked out multiple books from the library in the weeks leading up to her disappearance, including several about women who had staged their own disappearances. Police speculated that Joan might have been inspired by these stories. However, her friends and family insisted she was not the type to abandon her children. The investigation also revealed an unexplained phone call placed from the Risch home at approximately 2:15 p.m. The recipient of the call has never been identified, and its purpose remains unknown. Speculation ranged from a distress call to a planned signal for an accomplice. The search for Joan expanded rapidly. Local police were joined by state troopers and volunteers who combed the woods, fields, and reservoirs surrounding Lincoln. Bloodhounds were brought in but failed to pick up a trail. The bloodstains in the driveway provided no further leads, and forensic science in 1961 lacked the tools to reconstruct the scene with precision. Despite extensive efforts, no trace of Joan was ever found. Her disappearance left the community in shock and her family in anguish. How could a woman vanish so completely in broad daylight? In the decades since Joan Risch's disappearance, countless theories have been proposed to explain her fate. The most straightforward explanation is that Joan was the victim of a violent crime. Perhaps an intruder entered the home, attacked her, and abducted her. However, the lack of forced entry and the relatively small amount of blood made this theory difficult to substantiate. Another possibility is that Joan staged her own disappearance. Her interest in crime stories and her choice of library books suggested she might have been researching ways to vanish without a trace. Some theorists believe Joan was unhappy in her suburban life and sought an escape. Yet this theory raises troubling questions. Why would she leave her children behind? And how could she remain undetected for so many years? A third theory posits that Joan experienced a medical emergency, such as a miscarriage or psychological break, that led to her wandering off in a confused state. Witness reports of a disoriented woman support this idea, but it fails to explain the blood in the kitchen or the overturned furniture. Some have even speculated about a connection to her tragic past. Could memories of the fire that claimed her parents have resurfaced, triggering a crisis? Or was there a deeper secret in Joan's life that she kept hidden from everyone around her? The societal context of the 1960s adds another layer to the mystery. Women were often expected to conform to rigid roles as wives and mothers, leaving little room for individuality or ambition. Joan's disappearance may reflect a silent rebellion against these constraints, though it's impossible to know for sure. Modern advancements in forensic science have rekindled hope that the case might one day be solved. DNA testing, unavailable in 1961, could provide new insights if evidence were to resurface. Investigators have revisited the case periodically, but without new leads, Joan Risch's fate remains one of the most perplexing unsolved mysteries in American history. For her family, the lack of closure has been a lifelong burden. Joan's children grew up haunted by her absence, their lives forever shaped by the unanswered questions surrounding her disappearance. For the community of Lincoln, the case serves as a chilling reminder that even the safest places can harbor inexplicable darkness. Joan Risch's story continues to captivate and confound. It is a tale of a woman who lived an ordinary life until the moment she stepped into the unknown, leaving behind a legacy of mystery and intrigue. Whether she met with foul play, orchestrated her escape, or succumbed to forces beyond her control, Joan's disappearance challenges our understanding of what it means to truly know someone. Investigators and amateur sleuths alike have never given up hope that Joan's story might one day be resolved. Her family continues to hold on to the possibility of closure, though the years have undoubtedly taken their toll. Today, the home on Old Bedford Road stands as a quiet reminder of a story that refuses to fade into history. For those who walk by, it might seem like any other house in the neighborhood, but for true crime enthusiasts, it remains a symbol of one of America's most enduring mysteries. What makes Joan's case so compelling is the sheer enigma of her disappearance. It is not just the lack of resolution that fascinates, but the layers of intrigue surrounding her life and choices. Was Joan seeking freedom from a life she felt constrained by? Or was she a victim of circumstances beyond her control? These questions remain unanswered, yet they continue to spark discussion and debate. Adding to the intrigue is the fact that Joan's case has been referenced in true crime books, podcasts, and documentaries. Her story resonates with a wider audience because it encapsulates so many human fears. The fragility of safety, the unknowns within relationships, and the haunting possibility of vanishing without a trace. Could there have been someone in Joan's life, a friend, a stranger, or even a casual acquaintance, who knew more than they let on? Comparisons to other missing persons cases further deepen the mystery. Joan's case shares eerie parallels with the disappearance of other women in history, suggesting patterns that investigators may not have fully explored. These connections could hold the key to unraveling her fate, but they also highlight how little we sometimes understand about the human mind and the choices people make under pressure. Law enforcement faced numerous challenges in investigating Joan's disappearance. Without the advanced forensic tools available today, they had to rely on traditional methods like eyewitness accounts and basic blood analysis. The absence of surveillance technology in 1961 also meant that tracking movements and identifying potential suspects was nearly impossible. These limitations frustrated investigators, who often found themselves grappling with dead ends. The impact on the local community was profound. Neighbors who once felt secure in their suburban haven began locking their doors and looking over their shoulders. Parents became more protective of their children, and a sense of unease settled over Lincoln. The Risch family's tragedy became a stark reminder that even the most idyllic settings could harbor untold dangers. Today, experts speculate about how modern forensic advancements could change the trajectory of the case. Technologies like DNA analysis, geographic profiling, and digital reconstructions could provide insights that were unimaginable in 1961. If evidence were to resurface, even decades later, these tools could potentially shed new light on Joan's fate. Family members' perspectives add an emotional depth to the case. Martin Risch's life was irrevocably altered, as he had to navigate the challenges of raising his children alone while grappling with his own grief and unanswered questions. Joan's children, Lillian and David, grew up under the shadow of their mother's disappearance. Their memories of her intertwined with a mystery they could never escape. The legacy of Joan Risch's story transcends her family and community. Her case stands as a haunting example of how fragile human connections and safety can be. Whether discussed in academic circles, revisited by true crime enthusiasts, or memorialized in popular media, Joan's story continues to resonate with anyone who has ever pondered the mysteries of the human condition. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the enigmatic disappearance of Joan Risch. Her story is a poignant reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring power of unanswered questions. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your theories or suggestions for future cases.